What's going on, everybody? Welcome to my YouTube channel. My name is Kieran, and I try my best to help you with a spiritual awakening. Today, I wanted to talk about the disillusionment phase of the spiritual awakening. Okay, this is a phase which is categorized largely by loss, upset, destruction of self, and a fundamental breaking down in structures that once held you up. Right? So, the disillusionment phase is a phase of the spiritual awakening which comes quicker for some, but it comes after, usually it comes right after a period of nothing's working. Okay, so it usually comes when things are failing, when they're perceived to fail. Okay, so obviously it would be very weird if the disillusionment phase came after a huge bunch of success. Then it wouldn't really feel disillusioned. It would be more just upsetting. And then it would be called the upsetting phase of the spiritual awakening, which is pretty much all the phases. But focusing in on the disillusionment phase, it does come after this general sort of period of stagnation. So that in this period, breaking it down just very, very quickly, the start of your spiritual awakening is like a fool's journey. It's a very naivety. Is that a word? I'm close to the real word there, aren't I? You have this naive sense of purpose. You don't really understand everything, but you're opened and you feel free to explore and do things. And then you try things. You develop a spiritual ego. You make connections with people, ideas, opinions. You start to uncover a lot of stuff, such as angels, spirit guides, angel numbers. You start seeing synchronicities is very important. Okay, so the beginning stages of your spiritual awakening is very filled with passion and purpose. 2 P's. And you last for a while, I think, in that phase, and you start to develop an ego into sort of a second phase of that spiritual ego, that is. And then in the third or fourth stage of the spiritual awakening process, there is this disillusionment, and it lasts as long as it lasts, really. Everybody's different, of course. It depends on the actions and the things that you're experiencing in your personal life. Everybody's different. I mean, my disillusionment phase is different than the single mom, obviously, okay? So everybody's life is different and everybody's perspective is their own, and so we all see things differently. But as far as the disillusionment phase goes, it is categorized by one word, and that would be loss, okay? So loss is a prevalent theme in this, and so you lose, essentially, your identity, right, your spiritual identity. So the ego that you've developed, which is how you see yourself in relation to all things spiritual, that begins to loosen up and fall away. You start losing friends and family members. You don't necessarily lose them in the sense of, your favorite pen, but you lose them in the sense of the connections aren't as fulfilling as they were. So in this sense, you lose them, and they are obviously still around. It's just that the connection, again, doesn't mean as much as it used to. So you are stuck, in a sense, with this feeling of stagnation within you. So you're losing relationships. You can't make things right. Even your opinions about the spiritual journey and your belief systems start to deteriorate. Right? So for me, I started my spiritual journey, which is I hate even saying spiritual journey. It's not like it really is a journey as much as it is an experience, but let's just say it's a journey for this video. So I've started the spiritual journey as I had the idea that I was enlightened, maybe, something like that. I had the idea that I was onto something, and it turns out I wasn't. But I was very happy to believe in angels and spirit guides and twin flames and law of attraction and all this other kind of, just a bunch of stuff, just information, really. I'm not even going to get into whether or not it's all crap or not. But the point of this is I was getting information overload. I was getting a lot of it, and I was believing most of it, if not all of it. And eventually, things didn't work as they once were. The manifesting wasn't working. The things that I previously believed in didn't seem to be there. The sort of beliefs that I had about certain energies weren't sort of reciprocating that back towards me. So it seemed like spirit guides had basically hung up the phone on me, blocked my number. And so, I felt very disillusioned, right? That's the whole point. You feel very disconnected, disillusioned, and it feels like whatever power or understanding you once had of this journey, of this spirituality, you're suddenly doing a very shit job of it. And that's like, well, what's the problem? So you start to blame yourself, if that's what you're so inclined to do, and you start to blame the universe, you start to blame life, you start to take it out on these perceived ideas, and in effect, towards other people as well. You start to not trust the same people that you used to. I started to lose a lot of these spiritual friends because it turns out that, for better or for worse, I didn't feel supported in their company, because it felt like whatever I was experiencing was not being wasn't really being listened to, I think would be a good way of saying it. It was always like it was my fault. Like if I was negative, or if I was experiencing something that I thought was negative, like getting kicked in the balls by a donkey, something, I didn't, by the way, but something of that effect, something bad, then they sort of just gave me like the toxic positivity, like the new age sort of pithy sayings that you're just, supposed to just heal everything, I guess. But the idea was that a lot of these people that I knew and the ideas that I once believed that they also shared didn't seem to do it anymore. They didn't seem to cut it, right? So the spiritual disillusionment phase going on here is this uncovering of just more crap that wasn't true. And the truth in things, however small, is often not enough to fill your cup, okay? So angels, spirit guides, angel numbers, law of attraction, manifestation, twin flames, soulmates, labels, buzzwords, information, Instagram, here's something, tarot, here's this, here's that. It's all so much, and we believe a lot of it, that when it comes right down to this sort of phase that we're talking about here, all that's left is your emotions and whatever you're experiencing, your your current experience on the outside and the inside, of course, and how you feel about it all, right? So you have your regular emotions, which are probably chaotic because that's the nature of the journey. You have what you're experiencing, present, and something good, something bad, probably something bad in disillusionment phase, and then how you're reacting to it all, of course, right? So essentially, you've broken apart and you've fallen apart. You're right. You stop. You basically lose faith, right? It's something that is prevalent in many stories throughout history, right? It's not just like a spiritual thing. People lose faith in God. They lose faith in, being an agnostic. They lose faith in the ability to speak English. They lose faith in their deity, okay? Their perceived external power source. They lose faith in it. And the purpose, of course, if you're not already gathering it, is to restore faith in something deeper than what you've been looking at on the outside. So the angel numbers, you see them on the outside, okay? Twin flames and soulmates, the idea of these relationships, karma, karmics, these are external labels. They are given in order to help you better understand something. But what that means is you put something in a box. And if you really believe that box to be true, it means that the box can never be changed, opened, shaped differently, go into another box, right? That means that you're putting something in a container, and you don't want that to go. Otherwise, it wouldn't make sense anymore. So, okay, so there's the problem, but it's external, okay? So spirit guides, angels, when you're praying to them, when you're connecting to them, when you're, and you don't feel that connection anymore, and they don't seem to be listening, or you can't seem to be connecting, again, external. The opinions and the beliefs, law of attraction, manifestation, information has been external. This has been external information. If it hasn't come from within you first, then it's either not necessarily true or it's basically misguided, which is maybe the same thing. But the idea is, if it's coming from the external, it won't sort of, again, fill that cup that we're talking about, this proverbial cup, with little butterflies on it. It won't get that thing full. It'll only give you enough to maybe last another day. But eventually, on this phase of the awakening, that cup, just the water that goes into it just is less and less and less until it's just minuscule. And it doesn't quench your thirst or help you at all. Now you can't get through the day. Now you can't even get through the hour. So when all that stuff fails and stops, as it did for me, it used to fill my cup full, halfway, quarter, and now it's like if I try to do anything external, like anything, it is nothing. Razor thin margin of water in that glass. And it's not enough to drink. There's no point. So, it might make me feel peaceful for half an hour at most. Because that's where I've been led to. It's not a mistake that you're at this part of your journey. The idea, again, is you are now forced to look in the mirror. You're now forced to rely on yourself, right? So it's like if somebody had like a like a tea towel. If somebody had a tea towel in front of you, and this is what happens, is essentially all the other stuff becomes non-important because you've been looking to the side and you've been getting enough to keep going, but it's like there's these blinders on your face, like horse blinders, and it's right in front of your face. Oh wow, I look so much more attractive now. But they are on your face and it's in front of you, so you can't see. And the idea of that is that eventually it just comes down to you facing the obstacle, the blockage, okay? Just using this as a silly example. I hope that's clean. And there is nothing you can do except move through that to try to remove that, right? And the external stuff has been there to not necessarily remove that. It's been there to keep us going in the same direction that we always have been, except now with new information, new ideas. So that is why New Age spirituality and spirituality of any kind is actually kind of dangerous sometimes, because we're very easily led to believe that something has changed within us just because we are experiencing something new. But that's not actually the case. And the disillusionment phase of the spiritual awakening will show that to you. And anybody that has not gone through this phase, or that isn't going through this phase, or doesn't understand this phase or what I'm talking about here, I don't trust those people. I really don't, because then they wouldn't understand. And these are the people that are very toxic with their positivity, want to push things down your throat. I wouldn't consider these people really spiritual, nor would I consider them going through anything close to a spiritual awakening. It would just be people who like the idea of stuff, but liking spirituality, liking the concepts, crystals, tarot, okay, liking these things as ideas and angel numbers and whatever, and is very different than having to go through a specific emotional and spiritual journey, okay, because it feels very painful and uncomfortable and sometimes very brilliant, but it is beautiful, and anything that's beautiful is painful. It has something, a quality about it that cannot have been appreciated or earned or respected unless there was some change or growth, and change and growth is always uncomfortable. So spiritual awakening in this sense will always lead you to the disillusionment phase, because the entire point is to get you from going to a place where you believe in one thing that's externally based to a place where you know one thing that's internally based. Okay, it doesn't have to literally be one thing, but the idea is a perspective that's externally based is never going to be as beautiful or important or deep as the one that's internally based. So the disillusionment phase is there to break you down to the point where you can't rely on any of these things anymore. And it's not that they're crap or that they aren't real. I'm not here to say that. I'm not here to bash angel numbers or spirit guides or angels or any of these labels. That's not the point of this video, and I've done it enough anyway. The point is that you will get these things removed from your experience because they're not actually going to help you take the step, right? Like, see, imagine that you're stuck in mud. I don't know why. Maybe your brother pushed you into some mud because he hates you. And you're in the mud and you're praying and you're hoping that the mud will just go away. Please dry up, mud. I don't want to be stuck in you anymore. See, what that does is you're putting your beliefs, your faith, whatever, into something else rather than focusing on what you can actually do, which is pick yourself up and get out of the mud. So that's an easy example, and one that, definitely we can all understand. Yeah, you would probably agree that if somebody's stuck in mud, they probably shouldn't pray that the mud goes away. They should use their strength and their wits and pull themselves up. Okay, so it's a very easy example, but when it comes down to our personal story, our personal trajectory, our experience, our perspectives of things, our spiritual journey, it's harder to understand, but exactly the same thing is happening on a sort of energetic level. Is we find ourselves stuck in many different situations, emotionally, spiritually. Things are up and down on this journey, so to speak, and that, causes us to feel stuck, the stagnation I was talking about earlier. Well, in this case, by relying on spirit guides and angels and whatever deity, the universe, source, whatever you want to call it, by relying on these ideas and these principles, these concepts, it is the same exact thing. So we're still in the mud. We're not able to get out. So that's why it's taken away from us. Right? And if you believe in spirit guides, then you'd have to believe in unconditional love, and you'd have to believe in a parent's love, a true parent. and they wouldn't just hand things to you. They wouldn't just do everything for you. So the idea is, if you really care about somebody, you want them to do something themselves. You don't want to do it for them. Not all the time anyway. Maybe to show them how to do it, that's one thing. But consistently doing it for them over and over again isn't going to help any individual, right? So these external systems are taken away from your experience, the spiritual experience that you're going through in this phase, because you have to learn how to get up from the mud, how to get up from your own life, how to get up from your own situations without relying on an external thing. Because again, that cup will not be filled unless you're the one that fills it, unless you're giving it your own sense of sort of inspiration and water, right? You're giving it that emotion that's needed. And the emotion that you're getting from the outside will always be taken away quite quickly. But if you have your own water supply, you can sort of re-up as much as you need. So that's why it's taken away. It's not a punishment. It's not personal necessarily. It isn't even, unjust. It's actually completely fair. The idea is your own higher self, your own soul, wants you to be empowered. That's the whole point of this journey, is to be empowered. I mean, you cannot be empowered without being disillusioned or, not having power in the first place. Otherwise, how would you know what it felt like, right? I'm going to take a water break, so if you could just watch me for 10 seconds, that'd be great. Thanks. Look at that. It wasn't even quite 10 seconds. So this phase is important, and everybody who goes through this journey should experience it. They have to. I have to. It just means that you're getting ready for something bigger and better. I'm not even trying to be pithy or positive. It's that there is something beautiful waiting for you that you're meant to experience. It isn't like a thing. There are beautiful things that are waiting for you in life: a house, and a great job, a loving partnership, meeting your soul tribe, so to speak. Like, there's lots of beautiful things for you to experience, absolutely. But what I mean is, there is something bigger and better as a current reality, as a perspective for yourself. And it doesn't involve you giving away your power to other people, to all this information, to things just because spiritual people said them. You don't have to believe everything spiritual people say, regardless of whether they're masters or not, or considered to be masters. Not all information is for everybody. So you don't have to believe everything you see. Coaches, you have to believe everything you see on the internet, of course, as well. It's a personal experience. The only way you can justify your own spiritual awakening is first through yourself. So the disillusionment phase gets you into a place where you can now realign with who you truly are and what you truly believe in. And there's a lot of concepts that have fallen away from myself that I used to hold dear that I realize now are very false, or they don't help as much as I thought. Just one such example is the toxic positivity. Okay, another sort of sub-example of that is never being able to get angry or speak up for yourself, because you think, well, it's not spiritual to argue or essentially tell people to fuck off. And maybe you don't actually have to say those words, but I've learned even very recently that you do need to do that. You do need to stand up for yourself, and sometimes it's a very healing part of your journey to tell people no, and however form that takes. It could actually be the words fuck off. You might actually get into an argument and really express your truth in that way. I'm not sort of abdicating that we do that all the time, but sometimes it is absolutely necessary. But what is necessary as part of this journey is the ability and the decision to say no to whatever person, idea, or place or situation that you find yourself in. Okay, sometimes that is actually very healing. So it does help to get angry. It does help to feel yourself like having a chip on your shoulder. It does help to take charge back in your life. And when you start to feel like that, when you get into that energy where you're like, I'm not taking this shit from this person, what it does is it puts you in a place where you're actually empowered, right? So when you start to say no to all of these things, you're actually saying yes to yourself, okay? So you say no to the bad friend who wants you to, smoke weed one last time, okay? You say no to the housing situation that didn't work before. Why is it going to work now? You say no to the shitty job that's manipulated your time and energy for the last, just wants to do it one more time, trying to get you to come in on a shift you're not supposed to work, and whatever. There's so many situations. The idea is when you say no to these things, you start to end the disillusionment phase. So it begins because things no longer work for you, you feel stagnated, and the idea is to get you empowered, which means not relying on anything external. It means that if I feel upset about something, or I'm nervous, anxious even, better example, and I want to know. I want to know how this job interview is going to go, or what's coming up next. And I pull out my trusty tarot deck and I shuffle, but I'm anxious and I'm nervous because I'm in the disillusionment phase, so I'm not peaceful anymore. So further than that, it doesn't matter what my skills or my intuition says, I won't be able to hear them. So I could pull any card. Oh, 3 of Cups, that's a great card to get. That means celebration. Doesn't matter, it won't mean anything because I don't give a shit, because I'm nervous and anxious on a deep level because I've been relying on external based sources. So this is just another external based source. It is. Doesn't matter that I'm the one doing it and not someone else. And in fact, often when we do it, our ego gets in the way. But still, regardless if it's me doing it or someone else, it doesn't matter what cards I get, positive or negative, because they won't mean anything anymore because it's not internal. So eventually you put these things down. You say, okay, well, the pick of cards, the tarot, that's not working. The angel numbers aren't helping. The spirit guides, I can't seem to connect. The idea of God or the universe or source doesn't make as much sense, or I don't feel it as much as I used to. The manifestation and law of attraction, that doesn't seem to work anymore. I'm not sure if it ever did because a lot of it seems to be kind of garbage now that I've grown with wisdom. So now it's just you. It's just you and your meditation. It's just you and your ability to be still and silent. So while that is a huge part of getting out of the disillusionment phase, as an emotional reaction, remember, all action is emotional. So as an emotional reaction to getting out of the disillusionment phase of your awakening, you say no, which means saying yes to yourself, but you say no to anything. It doesn't matter how logical you think that you need this thing. Oh, I have to put up with this bullshit because that's giving me money or something like that. Or I have to put up with this because that's giving me company, right? You put up with a bad friend for the sake of company. You put up with a bad job for the sake of money, okay? When you're saying yes to these things and you're not saying no, your disillusionment won't end. Because it's the saying no, like, fuck that. Like, I know that we all don't really want to curse as spiritual people, but the energy that it, like, the feeling, the embodiment of, like, fuck that, like, that feeling is it is a beautiful thing because it does come from pain, but it also at the same time elicits a response of empowerment. So you take back that power with that energy, okay? And that ends that disillusionment because you're no longer putting up with it, okay? So the disillusionment is getting you into that empowerment phase, so there is no waiting. So a trick of the disillusionment phase is thinking that we have to wait for things to get better, but you're not really waiting for an external source to make things better. You're telling yourself, you know what? I'm not putting up with this situation. And then that way you're trusting in the unknown, trusting in yourself to get things done or to get things into your life. But first you have to exit this phase. And you have to exit it on your own 2 feet. That is the idea. Okay? It doesn't matter if you crawl there, supposedly. It doesn't matter if you roll down the hill to that destination, but you do have to do it yourself. So it doesn't matter how gracefully you achieve it. As long as you do, you'll exit that phase. Okay? So I hope this video was helpful. It's definitely a topic that I think a lot of people go through, so I hope that it's one that you guys resonate with. And I hope that you guys are doing all right. And I hope that I'm able to do another video and not die in the meantime. So we'll talk soon, guys. And if we don't, I did die. But hopefully I didn't. So anyway, guys, we'll talk soon. Bye-bye.